I did. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23.
Yeah.
I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like in a flash. So it was so exciting to go, and my mom was super jealous because my mom is the reason I'm a Disney fan.
And those performances are so wonderful that you don't want to try to recreate anything because there's the fear of failing miserably, but also it's 64 years before the original films take place, the original books, and Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and both Mockingjay films, and Nina, who produced all of the Hunger Games content, they didn't put any pressure on us to try to recreate anything.
Rachel Zegler was poised to be Disney's next big star, set to lead the live-action remake of their most iconic fairy tale, Snow White. With her talent and potential, she seemed destined to join the legacy that began in 1937. But as Twee 5 unfolded, her once bright future took a sharp turn. A wave of fan backlash, heated online debates, and mounting controversies has left her career hanging by a thread. Now, rumors suggest her woke meltdown alienated the very audience that initially supported her. With Disney scrambling to save the project and her reputation, the question remains, is the damage too deep to undo? The trouble started subtly. Disney's announcement of a live-action Snow White remake didn't immediately alarm fans. After all, the studio had already reimagined classics like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Little Mermaid. While these remakes had mixed reviews, audiences largely understood the intent to modernize beloved stories. But Snow White wasn't just another movie, it was the cornerstone of Disney's legacy, the new film that launched the animation empire. Early news about Snow White 2025 hinted at major updates to the storyline. The dwarfs would be replaced or reimagined, and Snow White would no longer depend on a prince to save her. The goal was to modernize the classic for contemporary audiences who favor empowered heroines. However, things took a dramatic turn when Rachel Zegler, cast as Snow White, began making public statements, or as critics describe them, rants. Rachel Zegler's promotional interviews for Snow White quickly took a controversial turn. She described the 1937 classic as dated, irrelevant, and unfit for modern audiences, making it clear she had little respect for the original beyond its historical significance. While some fans initially brushed it off as an attempt to highlight the film's updates, Zegler's repeated jabs at the older Snow White, calling her passive, boring, and part of a damsel in distress narrative, came across as dismissive. She framed her version as a necessary, real story for today's viewers, which only fueled backlash. Social media erupted. Clips of Zegler's interviews paired with sarcastic captions like, "New Snow White hates old Snow White," went viral. Supercuts of her eye rolls and snarky comments spread like wildfire. And the hashtag #HadBoycottSnowWhite began trending. Fans accused her of disrespecting a nearly century-old masterpiece, turning the movie's promotion into a PR disaster. Disney's marketing team faced an uphill battle. Instead of showcasing visuals and nostalgia, they now had to deal with their lead actress alienating the very audience they needed to appeal to. Critics framed Zegler as emblematic of Hollywood's so-called woke arrogance, tearing down classics to appear progressive. Even supporters of a modernized Snow White found her tone condescending, leaving Zegler at the center of a growing storm. And that's when the narrative shifted. Instead of becoming Disney's next great star, Rachel Zegler's outspoken approach seemed to alienate the very audience she was meant to win over. Accusations of a woke meltdown gained traction as her repeated criticisms of the original Snow White, the film that built Disney's empire, pushed fans to the brink. Each statement she made seemed to deepen the divide, with growing frustration directed not just at Zegler, but at the studio itself. The controversy escalated with leaks about the film's reimagining of the Seven Dwarfs. Rumors ranged from replacing them with mystical creatures to turning them into a random, diverse group of travelers. Combined with a ballooning $300 million budget due to rewrites and drastic changes, even fans open to modern updates began questioning why Disney was dismantling a beloved classic instead of creating a new story. For many, it felt like a deliberate disregard for the original's legacy. Meanwhile, Zegler's once promising career faced mounting backlash. Social media gossip questioned whether she could recover from the PR disaster, likening her to stars like Katherine Heigl, who were sidelined for alienating audiences. But, unlike Heigl, whose criticisms were industry-focused, Zegler's remarks were perceived as an attack on a cherished fandom.
What was it like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag?
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my God. Well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
Disney scrambled to reframe the film as an enchanted romance in its marketing, but fans weren't buying it. The official trailer only made things worse. Zegler's portrayal came across as out of sync with the Snow White legacy, drawing a wave of dislikes, negative comments, and online rants. Rumors swirled that test screenings for Disney's Snow White remake left viewers confused and disappointed. Reports claimed the comedic charm of the dwarfs was gone, replaced by an awkward group lacking cohesion. The Evil Queen's character was allegedly rewritten so drastically, she no longer resembled the cunning villain of 1937. Reshoots costing an additional $10 to $15 million sparked questions about whether the project could even be salvaged. For many, the real problem wasn't the budget, but the backlash against Rachel Zegler's perceived dismissal of the original's legacy. Zegler's social media posts didn't help. She shared cryptic comments calling out critics to grow up and get with the times, which fans interpreted as mocking those who cherished the classic. Memes and online debates exploded, with talk shows discussing whether Zegler was a progressive voice for change or an out-of-touch star alienating audiences. Former admirers began to question whether she was promoting inclusivity or simply belittling the film's original fans. For Disney, the stakes couldn't be higher. The project's ballooning costs, combined with the negative publicity, raised fears of a financial disaster on par with past flops like John Carter or Mulan. 2020, but Snow White was different. It was the cornerstone of Disney's legacy. A misstep here could ripple far beyond the film itself, jeopardizing merchandising, theme parks, and the company's cultural prestige. The pressure to recover the film's reputation and avoid a catastrophic backlash was immense. Disney had already lined up merchandise deals for Snow White 2025. Toys, lunchboxes, and t-shirts were ready to hit shelves. But with controversy raging, questions loomed. Would parents and kids actually buy them? Online chatter about woke meltdown and disrespect for the original suggested retail partners might face shelves full of unsold merchandise. The image of dolls on clearance racks evoked memories of past Disney flops, fueling fears of a financial disaster. Rachel Zegler felt the fallout firsthand. In Hollywood, a star's value is tied to their last success, and the backlash was jeopardizing her rising momentum. Producers began reconsidering future projects with her, worried that her polarizing comments and perceived dismissal of Snow White's legacy could alienate audiences. While some defended her desire to modernize the role, even her supporters admitted her delivery felt smug and dismissive. Statements like, "The original is outdated," alienated fans, who saw it as an insult to the 1937 classic's legacy. A more diplomatic approach, honoring the past while updating for today, might have softened the storm. Instead, her comments deepened the divide, turning what could have been her biggest moment into a career misstep. The Snow White controversy exposed deeper frustrations with Disney's strategy of remaking animated classics. Fans questioned whether these were fresh reimaginings or blatant cash grabs, and the backlash to Rachel Zegler's remarks felt like a breaking point.
She was like, "Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on crisis watch." Not only did she play Getaway Car, she also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
While some updates to classics succeeded, repeated controversies, from the Little Mermaid casting debates to Mulan's script changes, left audiences increasingly intolerant of missteps. For many, Snow White symbolized Disney's creative fatigue, with fans declaring they'd had enough. Disney scrambled to pivot, reportedly reshuffling executives in marketing and re-editing trailers to emphasize magical wonder over activist messaging. However, insiders felt it was too late to change public perception. Zegler's image as the actress who dismissed the original Snow White stuck, and the film became synonymous with an overblown $300 million misfire. Efforts to reshape the narrative only fueled cynicism, with fans accusing Disney of trying to bury the truth. Rumors swirled that test audiences despised the dwarfs' replacement so much that Disney planned costly CGI cameos to restore them. Other reports suggested comedic scenes had been cut after older fans found them disrespectful to the 1937 classic. Speculation also grew that the evil queen's role had been expanded in rewrites to counterbalance Zegler's polarizing performance. These changes painted a picture of a film cobbled together in desperation, a far cry from the timeless magic of the original. By now, the controversy wasn't just about Snow White. It was about Rachel Zegler's apparent meltdown in response to public criticism. Initially, she seemed confident she was championing progressive values, but as the backlash grew, her reactions only made things worse. Taking to social media, she vented about toxic fandoms, a move that alienated even more people. Critics noted that dismissing anyone who disagreed as toxic only deepened the divide. Viral clips showed Zegler looking visibly irritated during red carpet interviews, bristling at questions suggesting the 1937 original deserved respect. To many, she appeared frustrated and overwhelmed, unable to contain her disdain for the fanbase fueling the backlash. While Zegler likely didn't intend to sabotage the film, her comments and demeanor fanned the flames. Each defensive remark, each dismissal of the original film as outdated, reinforced the impression that she'd lost perspective. The term irrelevant began circulating online, with critics predicting that after Snow White's inevitable box office failure, Zegler's career might fade just as quickly. Memes like Snow White and the 7 Seconds of Relevance mocked her, and some joked that in a year, she'd be relegated to minor roles in low-budget indies. Her chance to become a Disney icon reduced to a cautionary tale. Hollywood's response was telling. Executives subtly distanced themselves from Zegler, pivoting marketing efforts toward the film's visuals or praising the supporting cast. Her statements became a liability, and you could sense the unease as the studio navigated around her increasingly polarizing image.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere, and she's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
In an industry where first impressions can make or break a career, Zegler's missteps cast a long shadow over what could have been a defining role. Industry watchers drew comparisons between Snow White 2025 and other notorious flops where an actor's public behavior overshadowed the film itself. However, this controversy went beyond Rachel Zegler's perceived meltdown. It exposed Disney's increasingly shaky approach to live-action remakes. For years, the formula of banking on nostalgia, modernizing themes, and reaping box office profits seemed foolproof. But with a massive budget at stake, a star who alienates fans is a risk the studio couldn't afford. The backlash made one thing clear: insulting an 86-year-old classic that pioneered feature-length animation was a disastrous way to connect with nostalgic families and Disney devotees. Rumors of behind-the-scenes tension added fuel to the fire. Allegedly, Zegler pushed for rewrites emphasizing Snow White's independence, clashing with Disney veterans who wanted to preserve elements of the original's charm. The result? A script that pleased neither traditionalists nor fans of bold reinvention. Combined with Zegler's escalating PR missteps, the project seemed destined for disaster. The term meltdown stuck, and for good reason. Zegler's comments came across as dismissive, not just of outdated fairy tale tropes, but of the fans who cherished the original. Advocating for a modern take on Snow White could have resonated if done respectfully, but Zegler's approach felt more like mockery. She didn't just promote her version, she derided what came before. The backlash reached new heights when she lashed out on social media, labeling critics as trolls and bigots. While some attacks against her were indeed hateful, many critics were simply devoted Disney fans, unsettled by her apparent disdain for a beloved classic. When Disney announced a second wave of reshoots for Snow White, rumors swirled about the film's future. Some speculated it might be delayed to allow for marketing adjustments, while others predicted it would skip theaters entirely and head straight to Disney Plus to avoid a box office disaster. Neither option was ideal for a project with such a massive budget, but with the controversy showing no signs of fading, Disney faced a difficult decision: risk a theatrical flop or settle for streaming in hopes of recouping a fraction of the costs. Rachel Zegler, meanwhile, became a lightning rod for criticism. Videos titled "Rachel Zegler's Career is Over" and "Zegler Melts Down Over Snow White" flooded social media, painting her as the face of what happens when a beloved property is mishandled. Attempts to clarify her comments failed to gain traction, as old clips continued to resurface, solidifying her image as someone who dismissed the 1937 classic as outdated.
And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much, to continue doing the job that we've entrusted them to do,
Right.
which is to tell the truth, to state the facts, to present the news in an accurate and a fair and in a timely basis.
The internet had already made up its mind. Could Zegler recover? Perhaps. Hollywood has always loved a comeback story, with actors redeeming themselves after controversy. However, her star power was increasingly eclipsed by the backlash. If Snow White flopped and fans blamed her for alienating audiences, studios might hesitate to cast her in future projects.
Business with large Western companies and brands, but we bring to China a type of ideology, admittedly a relatively benign one as it relates to politics in China, but still a Western ideology. And in many ways, that had value to them.
In today's hyper-connected world, where fandoms are vocal and unrelenting, balancing modern updates with respect for cherished originals is critical. Zegler's perceived failure to strike that balance could have lasting consequences for her career. The fallout from Rachel Zegler's Meltdown threatened more than just Snow White. It raised questions about Disney's entire reliance on live-action remakes. If audiences rejected a film that seemed to disregard its foundational legacy, Disney might have to rethink its nostalgia-driven strategy. This could push the studio toward original storytelling, perhaps focusing on new animated musicals or fresh ideas unburdened by the emotional baggage of classics. While a pivot like that could be healthy, it would also signal that their once reliable formula of reimagining beloved stories was no longer foolproof, especially when a lead star alienates the core fanbase. As the release date approached, doubts about the film's box office potential loomed. Even with last-minute re-edits to make it more appealing, the public's perception was already locked in. The woke Meltdown narrative dominated online discussions, with critics vowing to boycott the movie. Defenders of the remake were drowned out by a wave of negativity, and Zegler's star power seemed to fade under the weight of the backlash. Her red carpet appearances and social media updates no longer generated excitement. She had become, in the eyes of many, the actress who dismissed a cherished classic and derailed one of Disney's most ambitious remakes. Rumors hinted that Zegler might be trying to repair the damage, possibly under pressure from Disney executives. But any statements she made about loving the 1937 masterpiece felt more like damage control than genuine respect. The public had already decided, and early clips of her critical remarks continued to resurface. The controversy overshadowed every marketing effort, making it clear that Disney's gamble on Zegler had backfired. What should have been a triumphant update to a timeless story now risked becoming a cautionary tale for the studio's remake strategy. What happens next is anyone's guess. The film might scrape by with a moderate box office return, driven by loyal Disney fans curious to see it. Or it could fail spectacularly, becoming a cautionary tale about overhauling a classic too aggressively and allowing a star's controversial remarks to overshadow the project. Either way, Rachel Zegler's so-called meltdown will likely be remembered as a lesson in mismanaging a legacy. Had she framed her statements more tactfully, emphasizing respect for the original while introducing modern updates, the backlash might have been avoidable. Instead, her dismissive tone alienated fans who once embraced progressive reimaginings. Industry insiders see this as the perfect storm, a young star underestimating the power of nostalgia, a studio overreaching for mass appeal, and social media amplifying every divisive moment. The result is a controversy of epic proportions. As for Zegler's future, it's unclear. Hollywood loves a comeback, but it also has a long memory when someone damages a billion-dollar brand. If Snow White becomes a disaster and her role in its fallout cements her as a liability, she may face a steep climb back to relevance. Indie films or avant-garde directors might take a chance on her, but the dream of being Disney's next big icon could already be behind her. Just a few years ago, Rachel Zegler was celebrated as a rising star, but now she's caught in a storm of backlash that has eroded her public goodwill. What could have been a career-defining role is now overshadowed by controversy. Instead of being remembered for her vocal talents or comedic timing, she's become synonymous with a clash between modern reinterpretation and fans' loyalty to a cherished classic. The fallout isn't just personal, it also threatens Disney's reputation, as a flop could tarnish the legacy of their first animated masterpiece. This saga serves as a stark reminder of the risks involved in rewriting beloved stories. Progress and new perspectives are welcome, but disrespecting the past can alienate core audiences, leaving even the most powerful marketing efforts powerless to fix the damage. Rachel Zegler's attempt to modernize Snow White may have inadvertently sidelined her career, as fans see her less as a breakout star and more as the face of a woke meltdown. Whether she can recover depends on future opportunities, but for now, her image has taken a severe hit. The controversy surrounding Snow White will likely serve as a cautionary tale for years to come, highlighting the importance of balancing innovation with reverence for iconic stories. Losing the trust of a loyal audience can make the path forward incredibly difficult, and Zegler's missteps are a harsh lesson in navigating the intersection of fandom, nostalgia, and modern storytelling. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping Hollywood's biggest stars. Until next time, stay tuned, we're just getting started.